Welcome back, Sorcerers. Here we go. We're going to talk about the two other decks in my battle box. The previous video highlighted the Fire Sorcerer, which I have up on Curiosa.io, as well as, what was it? It was the Druid build, which I enjoy quite a bit. So if you want to see that video, it came up a few days ago. But now we're just going to review these two decks, the final Good versus Evil battle, Templar versus Necromancer. And I think we'll probably just save Necromancer for last. It's a pretty sweet deck, but as is Templar. So again, these are flavorful sort of builds, and you'll definitely see that, I think, with Templar and probably Necromancer as well. Based around a theme, it was overwhelming to try and build decks at first, coming from a different game system and being brand new to this. But once I kind of sat in with the theme, it got a lot simpler. So Templar is an avatar that taps the player draw a sight, and the first knight, sir, or dame you cast each turn costs 1 mana less. And so we're going to play as many knights and dames in here as we can. I bought one singular box of Arthurian Legends, which is where a lot of these cards come from. So we'll save the sights. Well, maybe we'll do the sights first, and then we'll save the meat and potatoes for after. So I was lucky enough to pull this Tri-Land. It has to be played on the back row, but if you do play it there, it gives you threshold for 3 different colors. And this is a 4-color or 4-element deck. So we're going to have some duels in here. As many as I kind of could afford to play. Most of my other decks are 1 or 2 elements only. And so this one is the only one that is 4. So let's get the shine off of there. Step. And then we played things with double threshold as well. So some of the creatures and the knights and stuff will cost like 2 air, 1 fire, 2 earth, or something really intensive as far as the threshold that you need. So I had a few of these double threshold sites that I've pulled, and that allows me to play those cards a lot more effectively. And then we have some singles. I like the scry effects from Rivers, so look at your next spell. You may put it on the bottom of your spellbook. I think that's a great ability. This Mountain Pass, minions can't enter this site on this ground if there's already a minion atop it. I just like these interesting, flavorful sites because in my mind, you have these knights that are traveling across the realm, and occasionally they go on these adventures or go to different locations. And so that's what I'm imagining in my head as they kind of ride their horse around, sort of like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, except less insane. These Spring Rivers, again, I like the Genesis ability of these things. Perilous Bridge, units can't traverse this site's top border on the ground. Plague Pits, if there are 3 or more dead minions, banish all cemeteries. I wanted some graveyard hate in the deck because it's going against Necromancer, for instance, so this feels like it's something that would be pretty useful. And then some of the most beautiful art in the game, in my opinion, these bloom sites. When they Genesis in, they provide the 3 elements that they don't make all the time. So this will come in and create threshold for earth, fire, and water, but it is an air site. So have a bunch of these blooms in here. They're all ordinary. You could put 4 of each, but then I wouldn't have room for crazy story cards. And so far, these have allowed me to cast a lot of the spells that I need. Autumn Bloom is just gorgeous. Algae Bloom. And then Annual Fair. I have 2 Annual Fairs. You can pay 1 mana to gain a threshold of a certain type this turn, and it allows you in a pinch to try and filter through. And then we have 2 wacky sites. We have Cornerstone, which is an amazing site in its own right. You may play the site to any corner and then get advantage that way. We have Tournament Grounds. Anyone may cast knights, sirs, or dames to the site and may do so with no threshold. So that could be really useful. And then a weird one. We played this one the other day. It's pretty funny. Postern Gate, an elite site and surprising angle of attack, enters the realm under an opponent's control. And what this does is it actually gives your opponent mana, and it gives them a site, which is pretty intense. But the situation that you want to use this in, which doesn't seem totally ridiculous, is if you have like some big beefy knights carrying flaming swords or whatever, but they're on your back row, you could play Postern Gate to your back row and then immediately start attacking them without ever having to advance across whatever defenses they might have. So that's the use case for this card. It doesn't come up all the time, but when it does, I mean, talk about doing like 5, 10, 15 damage to the opponent really easily, just getting them to death score quickly, without ever having to really do any strategic thinking whatsoever. But it does give them a little buff. So I think it's more of a late game card when you have some forces amassed and you seem to have an advantage, at least in creature size. But instead of having to make that whole trip, let's just get it at home. Postern Gate. All right, so let's go through the flavorful sort of cards for this here deck. Of course, we're going to have in the Middle Ages an angry mob of people. I love them because they can kill target unique or elite minion. Wow, what a powerful effect for just a bunch of people with fruit and rocks. Land Surveyors. As we're stretching out the realm, we have 2 of those. It's a good card. Then we get to our more regal folk, the House Arn Bannerman. Other nearby allies have +1 power. Spear Marshal. Once on your turn, Spear Marshal may acquire a Lance token. Those break often. Or you can get this little thankless squire to run out onto the battlefield. And by run, I mean stay completely immobile and bring 3 lances to the table. Then we get to our knights. We have lots of knights because remember our Templar's ability is to reduce the costs of these things. Cost 2 less to cast if you have more life than each opponent. Pretty solid. Purple Knights, they come with lances. White Knights, similar to the Black Knights, but their power and toughness is inverse. Cost 2 less to cast if you have less life than each opponent. Verdant Knight comes with another lance. Blue Knight, we have 2 of those. They come with lances. And Lance, again, if you don't know what it is it's a little +1/+0 token that has strike on it. So you can kind of ride up with your lance, strike somebody before it can fight back, and then it breaks, just like in a tournament ground or something. But pretty useful for those initial attacks. Then we have things for the knights to ride on. So knights are fairly slow, just like every other creature, but on top of a horse, which you can summon a horse, basically, to a site, pick up a knight, and then have it move immediately if it has charge, for instance. And this thing can move 2 spaces. So you get a fine courser, kind of pick up your knight and take him into battle. Or you get a big old war horse. It has charge. It may carry an ally as well. And so now, out to the more regal folk. We're getting there. We're going to talk about the Vengeful Heir. Vengeful Heir, as you may have heard in one of the box opening videos that I did with Jude, Vengeful Heir coming in and sort of taking up the helm in the picture, taking up the mantle of the fallen knight, was so flavorful to Jude that he was like, all right, I'm in on this game. And so this is the deck he was playing whenever that happened. We have Polar Explorers who work for the Ruler of Thule. Now these guys can attack from these are the type of things, they work just like polar bears. The Ruler of Thule has charge, and then allies can move as if the top and bottom edges of the realm were connected. Other allies occupying sites there have +1 power. So it's really powerful. It is a unique, and these are just elite, but I only have 1. But they sort of, I imagine this whole realm is like multiple kingdoms, almost like Game of Thrones style. So this is like the King of the North right here, and the knights. And occasionally on their adventures, they'll go to the mountain pass, go see the Ruler of Thule. And then there's this other king of the realm. I mean, you would think he's like the biggest king. Maybe he is. However, is he bigger than Merlin and King Arthur? So here's just some card draw. Not really Merlin. I don't even know if there's a Merlin in the set. I'm assuming there has to be, right? But then here's King Arthur. Players can't control cards owned by other players. Pretty powerful in the game where there are a lot of sort of mesmerism style effects where you can kind of take control of people's minions, and that's a extremely powerful thing to do. Well, King Arthur says, no, can't do that. You got to follow by the rules. Now, here are the only named knights that I pulled out of my Arthurian Legend box. Sir Bors the Younger, 4 power, 2 toughness, ranged 2, which is really sweet, and enemies lose stealth, so he's very watchful. He can shoot arrows and projectiles across the board to take out oncoming foes. Sir Gawain, 3 toughness or 3 power, 5 toughness. He takes damage for other adjacent allies. If he dies from damage taken this way, draw a card. So he can go ahead and take up for folks. We have Sir Priamus, Lance, and Lethal. Nearby allies are immune to lethal, so one of the best jousters in the land, I would imagine. Every time he jousts, he's super lethal, so you want to give him more lances as you can. And then Sir Balin. Whenever Sir Balin strikes an avatar, destroy that avatar site, then burrow other minions and artifacts there. So he's sent out on a special quest. And then Sir Galahad, which is really powerful. It's a 3/6. It's a unique mortal with an unshakable faith. Sir Galahad's strikes heal you, and nearby allies take no damage from demons, spirits, or the undead. So this is a great aura, paladin aura effect, and has a healing strike, which is super powerful. Then we have some other random other minions, more fantastical. I think this is like the Lady of the Lake, Swan Maidens. Some Angel in the deck. I figured Angel wasn't too bad, but I wanted to get some airborne minions in the deck as well. So whenever a weaker allied minion here is attacked, you may return it to its owner's hand. And then we have our spells. So we have like 35-ish minions, and then we have spells. And that's kind of the breakdown you'll see of most decks, is they typically have like 35 minions. Spells and artifacts make up the other 25 of the 60-card deck. So we have King's Council. Draw a card for each unique ally. I feel like you won't be able to do this in many decks, but in this deck in particular, there's so many unique sort of knights and named creatures that you may draw 3 or 4 cards off of this. Mad Dash. When they get angry, draw a card. Give an ally movement +1 this turn. Knight goes off. All these are sort of flavorful additions to. You can imagine these in the realm of like knights and nobles and kings. Harvest Festival. Summon Eltham and Sarava townsfolk from your collection to an allied site. As our realm grows, we have some land masses to help also fix our threshold too. We want to kind of ramp a little bit. And how do knights kill things? They smite them. Or at least paladins do. Or they do great deeds like rescue, return a minion from your cemetery to hand. Or they occasionally get sidetracked on a noble quest, such as finding a sunken treasure somewhere, get some extra card draw. And then occasionally they do horrific things. Maybe it's the Black Knight, sets hamlets ablaze, conjure atop an ordinary or exceptional site. At the start of your turn, destroy this site and minions atop it, and hamlets ablaze. Then occasionally they do find beautiful things, like this beautiful lotus flower. An ally gains +3 power this turn, and you heal for 3. Pretty solid. So knights are always kind of looking over the top of battlefields and tents, trying to figure out what's best. Here's your tactical move. 1 at a time, each ally takes up to 2 steps. I mean, this could be a really, really powerful and tactical sort of move. Attacked by knight, enemies drop their artifacts, and then allied units strike first this turn. Again, really powerful sort of alpha strikes is what this deck is hoping to get to. There is some damage to like clear out some boards. We have a Holy Nova, so it feels flavorful to having like a priest kind of create this holy invocation. Or we strike a mortal blow. So this for a bigger guy, if you lance it, well then you can finish them off with this exceptional magic, kill target wounded minion. Then we have our equipment. So we want to make these knights super powerful. We want to jack them up. So we're going to give them +2 power with the sword and shield. Pendragon Banner. Nearby allies have +1 power while there are no enemies here. Holy Water. This you can tap it to throw it and destroy an evil creature, but if you throw it on a knight, it will ward them. I love the duality of that. Here's a Storyful sort of card. Storyful is not a word, but it is now. Ferryman's Coin. Banish this coin, gain 1 mana, or banish up to 3 cards from a cemetery, which is why it's in here. I thought maybe you might need to do that. Toolbox to get some of your ordinary spells from your collection if you need them. A Ring of Morrigan. This is for your King of the Realm, say. Bearer has, whenever this unit casts a spell, they may deal 1 damage to target nearby unit and have you gain 1 life. Really, it's for your Avatar, your Templar, but yeah, this is for all those Necromancer skeletons that are coming up. Flaming Sword. Bearer has +1 power, and it strikes splash full damage to each other enemy at the struck unit's location. That's a mouthful, but basically you get buffed and you strike full damage to each enemy at a location versus just attacking 1. And then we have the occasional moment of darkness for these knights when they seek out some more darker arts, which leads them into the swamp where we're going to go right now. They have Wiccan tools. And what this allows you to do is you sacrifice it as you're carrying it. You draw a spell. This turn, bearer becomes a spellcaster, and their spells require no threshold. So we have 2 of these in the deck because they replace themselves but also they allow you to cast these really sort of extravagantly costed knights that are just, what if you don't have that land? Well, now you can cast it. Well, thanks for journeying with me into the swamps with Templar, where we go now. Yeah, Templar's been a fun deck to play, but this is certainly one that strikes people as more competitive, partially because the Necromancer is so powerful on its own. And let's look at it. Necromancer came out in Gothic. Tap, player draw a site. Once on your turn, you may pay 1 to create a skeleton here. So skeletons in this deck can be little 1/1 attackers, but often they're used as fodder as well, which you will see as we kind of go through. Now imagine we're traveling from the kingly realm and we're going into the more swampy territory. So that's what we're going to look at. We've got our lone towers here on the edges of the swamp, and we have one of each type of tower, or at least there's 3 types of towers that we have: lone tower, Gothic tower, and dark tower. And that's because of their abilities that say, if this is the only dark tower you control, you gain 1 extra mana. So on the turn these come into play, they give you an extra bump, and that's why they are in here. And we've got some of the realms on the outside of the kingdom. This is a water and air deck only. There's a lot of undead sort of things in Earth, but I didn't have enough sort of cards to make this a 3-color deck and then have a 4-color deck as well, so I restricted it to 2. So we have mountain peaks to increase our air threshold by a good bit, because this has some expensive air creatures in it. And then we have, getting into the swamp now, bogs. Until your next turn, units are immobile while atop a nearby site. It's a good way to slow the march of the Templars across the plain. Or we can summon some frogs, which we can also sacrifice frogs to our Necromancer. He loves sacking frogs to do his devious deeds. They can also defend, but they have 0 power, so they can't really do any damage. Unless they are using one of the knight's swords, which I guess could happen. Undertow. Genesis, staying within this body of water, move target 1 step. So this deck, like most water decks, is about movement and subterfuge, and sort of like you can arrange the board as you need it and then strike in a more advantageous way. So you'll see that as we get into the cards we're using. Floodplain. Once on your turn, you may flood an adjacent site. So this is so like your giant shark, which is in this deck, can kind of roam around in places it shouldn't be able to go. Open Mausoleum. We have 3 of these. Genesis, you may pay 1 to summon a skeleton here. As I probably redo the deck, I probably will put like 4 of these, since it's an ordinary site, just make the full 4. But I didn't pull all 4 in my box, so that's why we're having only 3 in here right now. We've got Den of Evil. This turn, the next evil cast to this site costs 1 less, ignoring threshold. You might be wondering what evil is. Well, evil is undead, demon, or there's one other thing, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's basically, you do have to kind of know it, but once you know it, it won't be an issue. There's a lot of undead or demons in this deck, so that's what evil refers to. And so that makes some of them cheaper. Here's one of my favorite lands, Thin Ice. We have 2 of those. We have submerged creatures in the deck, sirens and such, and so they can fall under the Thin Ice at the end of your turn if minions atop the site total 5 or more power, submerge them, which will kill non-submerged minions, which will drown them basically. So you want to draw, move creatures around to your advantage on this deck, and this Maelstrom land allows you to do some of that too. At the start of your turn, you may pull in each minion in this body of water 1 step. So you may, but if you have this down, then you're going to pull your minions, their minions, and so it does require some strategic thinking to make that very useful. Babbling Brook. Genesis, until your next turn, minions are disabled while atop nearby sites. You get 2 enchanted. Sold Out Cemetery sort of acts as like a an airport, what do you call it? The like sort of movement pad that allows you to walk faster in the airport. That's what this is, but it's just for skeletons and vampires and such. Whenever undead enter the site, push another undead here 1 step away. So it's like, oh, it's too full, and so they just move somebody out. But you get to like add extra movement to your skeletons that way. It's pretty funny. Mudslide. Genesis, slide all units or land sites in this column 1 step left or right. Again, this whole thing. We're going to move and strategize and use the battlefield to the highest effect in this deck. It's pretty fun when you get it right. So this is just something to seek a creature out of your collection. A horrible hybrids, a peculiar port. Watery grave. When an enemy drowns nearby, summon a skeleton token atop that site. So you want to kind of put this next to your thin ices if you can. Desecrated ground. Evil units here have +1 power, which is awesome for your skeletons, making them into 2/2s. Forsaken crypt. Genesis. You may cast a ghoul from your collection. And a beautiful lighthouse, which is probably out on the coast somewhere. This is it belies how terrible the swamp is inside, but it gives you some extra air, which is nice. Kelp Cavern. Look at your bottom 3 spells, put 1 on top. And then a Troll Bridge, which is great. It comes out and it strikes for 3 power basically any time, or the first time a lone enemy enters here each turn. You strike it unless they discard a card, so they pay the troll toll. And I won't say the other part, that comes from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but that is what I think of every single time I think about the troll toll. So, here we go. We're going to go sort of lay these out, I guess, like I didn't lay out the first one. We've got 2 lightning bolts. Deals 3 damage to a random target. We have swaps. So these are some of those cards that sort of move your creatures around. Swap the location of target minion or artifact with another target minion or artifact. So you could swap minion for artifact, for instance. Like if they had a Ring of Morgan that nobody was picking up, you could swap a skeleton for that and then pick it up yourself. So you can do a lot of tricky things with this spell. Or you can simply move a big minion out of its like hidden or like sort of protected location to make it more viable to strike and take down. Overflow is sort of like landmass, but for water sites. Draw a site, you may play a water site. So we have a couple of those. And then we have the hilarious 4 fat frogs. Just gives you some fodder for defense or use later. Bone Spear, you can sacrifice your skeletons to shoot a projectile from its location that deals 3 damage. Shout out to Diablo. Then we have a Black Plague. It's a unique aura of insidious disease. At the end of your turn, the weakest minion occupying affected sites dies. If tied, choose one, dispel. If none, die. So this will, you want to put this in the most populated place that they have, honestly, if they're trying to hold up in one particular spot. It's great if, say, like you're on death's door and they're trying to like create a ton of defenders. Well, put a Black Plague right on their spot. And if they're in the corner, say, that'll take care of them. Raise Dead. Got to have this with a Necromancer, I would imagine. Just summon a dead minion from any graveyard, which is sweet. Then we have Riptide. Target water site pulls in an above ground unit it's adjacent to. Then you draw a card. Scatter. Push everything at target location 1 step, 1 at a time. So you could push things onto thin ice. You can push things into the Troll Bridge. There's a lot of little tricks you can do with a card like this. Mesmerism. Gain control of target nearby minion. Yep, that's going to really mess them up. That's our 4 water threshold, though, so it gets expensive to cast. You think you might be able to cast it right away, but that is not correct. So now to the minions. We have a lot of minions in this deck. We have 4 Ominous Owls. Why? 1 for flyers, just to have something airborne to protect us early, but also it can kind of scout out the rest of the realm, and then you can start casting minions to that site, which I think is fairly kind of powerful. So I appreciate it. And it has the flavor of sort of necromantic swamp. See these horrible owls. Then we have 2 skeleton mages. They are spellcasters, and they give you a little bit of card advantage in the deck. So Genesis may cast an ordinary magic from its cemetery, banishing it afterward. So you can cast, say, another Bone Spear or a Lightning Bolt, something like that. We have Lugbog Cat. This is a super great rate, basically, but it can and must be cast to any water site. So this deck has a lot of water sites, so Lugbog Cat is no problem to put out. Some more movement-based things. We have Screamers. I love Screamers. 3 power, 3 mana cost, but 2 air threshold. Tap target adjacent enemy minion and make it take a step away. Tapping it's important because it will kind of, if you push a minion away that is tapped, you will kind of prevent it from coming back to intercept, say, another one of your minions. So that's always a good use case. Like they have a big Sir Galahad or something, but they have some other smaller minion that you want to take out with, say, a Grizzly Bear. Well, now I play my Screamer on the board, I push Sir Galahad away, I scare him and terrify him, and then all of a sudden the Grizzly Bear is left alone, and then I can run in and attack whatever that small thing is. So, or you can just push them onto the thin ice, which which turns out, excuse me, It's just super amount of fun. Gnarled Wendigo, an exceptional monster. I run all the copies I can of this in the deck. It's a really powerful spell. It has 5 power and toughness. This costs 2 less to cast for each minion you sacrifice at its summoning location. So this is a good use case for all those extra necromancer frogs and or skeletons. Let's just sack them all. Let's say we sacked literally 3 frogs. We get a Wendigo, a 5 power creature for free, and then we still have all of our mana to do something with for the rest of the game. Drowned, Submerge, got some extra, some undead. Must be cast Submerge, but they have 3 power and toughness for a 2 mana, which is not bad. Then we want to walk the void. We have an ordinary undead that kind of runs around in the empty spaces. This can be useful if you're trying. We have a lopsided sort of board, and you're trying to like come around from the back. Then we have sort of our galley of singing, guileful little fairy folk. And so we have Koi Nixie, Submerge. Once on your turn, Koi Nixie may force target nearby enemy to take a step towards her. Tap that enemy if it is untapped. So completely controls the monster and can do it at any point in the turn. The Koi Nixie from Wish, Guile Sirens, is more powerful. It has 1 more extra power, but at the start of your turn, force target enemy minion to take a step towards Guile Siren. So there's 2 things this does worse. You can't do it at any point in your turn. You have to do it at the very beginning, so you have to have that planned out. And it is not tapped, so it's not totally defenseless, so to speak. But I use them all because, again, if you're just wanting things to step onto thin ice or into troll bridges, then this is the best way to do it. You get these little constant effects every turn. You can really add up. And we've got our little apprentice wizard. He's just hanging out. He wants to be like a necromancer, but he is not there yet. Genesis, draw a spell. And we've got another void creature, a lucid dreamer out in the swamp. And Voidwalk, you may cast minions to this void, granting them Voidwalk until they're no longer in the void. So this could get really out of hand, especially since it's early in the game. Only 2 mana. Abaddon Succubus, 3 power. Once in your turn, you may lure target adjacent enemy minion to take a step closer. When it arrives, it takes 2 damage and you heal 2. And that could be enough to kind of kill a minion or just soften them up. For something like your giant shark, because you're going to have a large body of water in this deck. So having a submerged, waterbound creature, whenever another unit enters or moves between sites in this body of water, the whole thing, giant shark moves to that unit to fight it. So 5 power and toughness will take out most mid-range things, no problem. So you use your Guile Siren or your Koi Nixie or something and just make the creature step into the water. That's all you have to do. And it can literally fly across the whole board to go fight it, which is nuts. Master Necromancer, really cool. We're going to create a ton of skeletons with this. When it enters, you summon a skeleton to each other adjacent site. So that could be 4 other sites. Fate Changeling, again, is sort of trickery. It's great. One thing I did is they had a knight that Carl was playing, my friend Carl, who was equipped to the hilt with all kinds of cool stuff. And then I cast Fate Changeling and I sent the knight back to his hand and left all of the equipment hanging out on the ground. And who picked it up? This Fate Changeling picked it up. So you can really get a big change in tempo with just one simple sort of spell. Hauntless Head, Spellcaster, and Voidwalk. This is good as like a sort of a finisher. An exceptional spirit in search of some body. At the start of your turn, Hauntless Head teleports to the top of a random site or a void, but it is kind of random, so there's only one in the deck. I love the image of having a Grim Reaper walking around and it is a unique, so you can only have one. It's lethal, so if anything comes across it, it will kill them. Whenever Grim Reaper kills a minion, banish that minion and all copies, search its owner's cemetery, hand, and spellbook, and banish any copies they shuffle. So if there's something really powerful that, say, vampires or like, even their own Wendigos or something like that they're putting out there and you want to get rid of those forever, well, here's a way that you can potentially do that. Stygian Archers, ranged. Whenever Stygian Archers kills an enemy, summon a skeleton token where it dies. Got to fit that skeleton theme. This is a horrible swamp we're in. We've got a Frozen Horror. Looks horrific. Stealth. You break stealth, disable another nearby minion until your next turn. So a little bit of tempo play. Then we have some bigger things. We've got the ultimate horror. It's airborne and it's Voidwalk. In Genesis, summon each other dead Voidwalk minion to a nearby site or void. So that could be sort of a finisher in this game. We've got Dapper Vampire, which is always bad and great. Airborne damage dealt by Dapper Vampire strikes heal you. Lord of Lies. Somewhere in the swamp lives this other powerful creature, an elite demon. Sows distrust. Once on your turn, you may have 2 target units at a nearby location fight. The Doom of Dilmun. Burrowing, Submerge, Voidwalk, can't be banished, destroyed, or modified. It's just 6 power and it costs 8 with 4 air threshold. But if you get this thing out, and we have had it out on the battlefield, it is tough to deal with. Renatus Trueblood, airborne. Strike damage against units heals you. Lilith. At the end of your turn, reveal opponent's top spell. If it's a minion, summon it here. Otherwise, put it at the bottom of the deck. Very powerful card. I've had Lilith control Sir Galahad actually in a game, and that was terrible for the Templar player. Toolbox. Just to get an ordinary spell. Here's some more flavorful Necromancer stuff. Bleeding Skull. Whenever a minion dies nearby, your opponent loses 1 life. So you want to use this close to the thing. Say if you're sacrificing 3 skeletons to summon a Wendigo, well, you now have done 3 damage to your opponent just for casting a spell for free, which is a good deal. Pallid Bust. Genesis, banish a dead minion, which is good if you're banishing the opponent's graveyard. And then Minion Bearer has the banished minions' printed types and abilities. So you now become your own Dapper Vampire of a sort. Drums of Doom, great with skeletons. Damage dealt to minions nearby is lethal. So next to this drum, all little skeletons are lethal cards. And we have the Arcade of Bones, great for all of our undead folk. An Elite Monument. While in this row, undead move freely, and they can't be targeted or damaged by magic, and that's the most important part. Something like a Rolling Boulder, I imagine, could actually roll over them because that's not targeting them, but and it's not damaging them by magic, but you can't hit them with Ice Blast, you can't hit them with Lightning Bolt, whatever. And then our final card in our Necromancer deck is, of course, a Pile of Skulls. For 5 mana, once on your turn, you may banish a card from a cemetery to summon a skeleton token here. Again, a little bit of graveyard hate, and just the flavor is off the charts. The Necromancer is all about them bones. So without going into an Alice in Chains song, we're just going to go ahead and end the video on this. I hope you've enjoyed this little walkthrough of the battle box. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Have a great day.